As we mark the 50th anniversary of June 16, we pause to reflect a defining chapter in our history.
Rona education ya rona is ke Africans apartheid education.
Ayisikhulu nasankhula.
Ukunokuthi siye phambili nge-youth yethu ngibona ngathi sibuyele emuva.
We're creating a generation of beggars.
Dance like a baboon.
Catch Born After the Fire every Tuesday on SABC1 at 6 p.m. As we mark the 50th anniversary of June 16, we pause to reflect a defining chapter in our history.
Rona education ya rona is ke Africans apartheid education.
Ayisikhulu nasankhula.
Ukunokuthi siye phambili nge-youth yethu ngibona ngathi sibuyele emuva.
We're creating a generation of beggars.
Dance like a baboon.
Catch Born After the Fire every Tuesday on SABC1 at 6 p.m.
Well, SABC1 will commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprisings with the premiere of Born After the Fire. And this is a new 13-part documentary series that explores South Africa through the eyes of the generation born into democracy. The series premieres on Tuesday, the 21st of July, 2026 at 6 p.m. A little bit more on this series. We're actually going to be joined by Ludwekazi Ndlazi, narrator of the series. So on that note, Ludwekazi, a very good morning. Congrats. Thank you for being part of this much-needed conversation.
Hi, Liesl. Thank you so much. It really is something quite special. It's such an honor to be able to weave different stories from South Africans who are speaking from the depths of their souls.
Absolutely. And I think we need to then look at why it was so important to tell the story at this point. I mean, the title itself suggests so much. Fire. Just reflecting on South Africa's journey. Is it a fire of resistance? Is it a flame that's eternal? What are we really trying to explore in these past 5 decades for our nation?
You're actually spot on with those questions, because those are some of the critical questions that we had to really sit with. There's a lot of tension around the conversation, but also commemorating 50 years requires us to be very honest, number one. Number two, I think it's very critical for us to also try a different approach. We don't want to be frozen in a moment in history, but we seek to explore other alternatives where we ask our questions. What is the South Africa that we've inherited? What is our contribution to what we have here today? And those questions lead us to, what does freedom mean for South Africans who were born after the Soweto uprising? And this intergenerational conversation that happens between people who have lived through the uprising, young people who are born after. So I would then say your proverbial millennials and then Gen Z. You start to see all of these different voices come in to unpack, literally breaking it down, ask those critical questions. And what I love about this docuseries is that it uses real issues that are happening in our lives, in our realities, in our communities, such as history and culture, gender-based violence, youth unemployment. What is it that we have done right?
Yes.
And the things that we haven't quite gotten right that have led us to this position that we're in. So it's introspection, it's incredibly reflective, and there's a lot of honesty in the discussion as well.
And it's been broken down into 13 episodes as well. And to your point about that honesty, that vulnerability, about where we are, having the gift of hindsight, but also then navigating what the future looks like. There's personal stories, there's archive, there's candid interviews as well. You also had to really dig through history, looking at those historical archive material. How long did this work take on the series? What would have arguably been the most emotional part or testimony that you would have had to sift through?
There's quite a few. I don't know if I can select one, but I'll start off by saying that one of the things that was very clear to us in the very early stages of putting together the project was that there's absolutely no way you can ignore what history has brought to us and has done for us as young people. And when you speak to struggle stalwarts, you can see that the body remembers. There's memory in the conversations that they're having today, There's one particular gentleman who then narrates the story of how he was told to dance like a baboon. That's an incredibly personal, sensitive story that you can see is so unbelievable. But when you look at how he then relates it to how South Africa is today, how young people engage today, and I think there's also a very beautiful opportunity that emerges with the series where these different generations in dialogue start to show us that perhaps we may misunderstand each other sometimes, but the intention is to get to a point where we see a South Africa that allows us to live fairly, that allows us to enjoy the fruits of our labor. But most of all, I think it's also being centered around honoring those who really fought the good fight, but at the same time, not dishonoring them in our actions today. So yeah, it's a bit complicated because there's a lot of stories that move between lack, that move between a desire to reach the dream when the goalpost keeps shifting, you know?
Yes.
So it's so nuanced. And what these episodes do is that they continue to unravel and unpack all of these different layers, one generation at a time, one conversation at a time.
And you know, I actually want to get into that because, yes, it's so nuanced. And I mean, it's amazing that you could try and condense it into 13 episodes. But we're obviously looking at this perception or misperception about how young people are dejected. They're not participating in the liberation struggle with that baton that's been handed over. So as you also navigate these stories, I mean, how has that shifted for you? How are young people playing their part in, you know, fighting against structural inequality, perhaps also trying to navigate what the next 30 years and beyond looks like for our nation?
I think one person once mentioned how we're a nation in a constant state of anxiety. I think that really simplifies how some of these engagements have really showcased how intense that anxiety is. But there's also a sense of hopefulness that comes up as you continue to explore these different stories. That yes, I am unemployed today, but I'm also the same person who will find a solution, find a problem in my community and solve that problem, and therefore emerge as an entrepreneur. So it's a very difficult, sensitive position to be in, to be young right here today in this current economic status, because I think some of these stories, although you may feel like we have to stand for a certain cause, there's a lot of conflict when it comes to how do I represent something that's bigger than me when I have these very immediate problems that I'm dealing with here today. And then you juxtaposition that with the older generation that will be like, during our time when we had to make sure that we make decisions that will impact the majority, we were very decisive. We were very clear on moving in a specific direction. So you see these things and you realize that there needs to be an opportunity to open up that dialogue so that we're able to find a meeting point where we can engage and agree that, all right, the narrative has always been that young people are not interested enough in politics. They're not interested enough in what's happening in their environment. But the truth is that there is possibly an issue that they're battling with. And some of those things start to show up in the conversation.
Well, Ludwekazi, you've spoken. It's time to drop the mic and perhaps wait as it premieres. Thank you for joining us at this hour. SABC's new documentary series is called Born After the Fire. And as you heard, it commemorates the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprisings, exploring the state of South Africa through the eyes of the generation born into democracy. Again, thank you to Ludwekazi Ndlazi for joining us and telling that story. Of course, she narrates that 13 episode series that's on SABC1. Let's leave that conversation. We've got more artsies after this. Do stay tuned.